Generally, when I go out to speak at events and things like that, people say, put together, what are you going to talk about, And oftentimes I come from the world of academia too. I used to work for UW-Madison, and I understand that people like to have a format. They want me to tell them exactly what I'm going to do for the time that I'm allotting them. So I'll just throw something together and send it out because I understand what they need, And that my bio is part of that. Just sending something out because people want to know something about me. But my partner over here, she says, "Oh, I'm really excited to hear what you're going to talk about," and I'm like, "Me too, me too," because generally when I get somewhere, then I just let the words come out, and whatever comes through, that's what's supposed to be said, because it doesn't belong to me, None of the information belongs to me. It doesn't belong to you. It doesn't belong to anybody specifically, but it belongs to all of us. So we heard people say contributing beyond oneself. That's the key to happiness. And generosity is a huge component of our culture, of the Lakota culture. And so I try to be generous with everything that I have, everything that I've learned, all the knowledge and wisdom that I've acquired throughout the years. And hopefully I can give you a piece of that knowledge and information tonight. So my shortest training session is about 32 hours is what I do. I train MDs, I train psychiatrists, I train therapists, I train counselors. I train them in cultural affirmative training. I give them cultural sensitivity training. I work for one of the largest telepsychiatry companies in the country, Regroup, and I make sure all my clinicians are trained before they even start their work in the working with Native American people, with my population, providing them hours upon hours of training so that they don't make any cultural faux pas while they're there. Give them a little head start. And so I'm going to try and sum up what looks like about 15 minutes, 32 hours of training for you. All right? And hopefully I could get this done. But what I really hope to issue you, or I guess give to you, is the understanding that we all want happiness and we all want peace, right? And so you have all these new age techniques. You have 460 some different theories and therapies out there that you're supposed to get good at. Pick 3 and get good at them, And here we are sitting here unhealed, unwell ourselves. And how do you go out to our communities? How do you go out to your own community and be effective in what you do if you yourself don't feel good? So you've heard the saying that hurt people, right? So if hurt people, then healed people can heal people. And if healed people can heal people, then well people can create wellness wherever they go. And so that's where you're trying to get to. Healing is available to everybody here in this room. In the end, we're all going to be healed. Wellness is up to the individual. It's a choice we have to make every day. And so when working with our Native American populations and Indigenous people, I always emphasize that. And I'm going back old school, because all these new age techniques that we have on healing and wellness and the technology that's thrown in our face every day, maybe the answers aren't ahead of us. Maybe it's nothing ahead of us. Maybe all the answers are behind us. We go back to the foundation of everything, and we have all the answers we need to create wellness in our communities, to create wellness within ourselves, to be happy, to feel peaceful. And that's everybody's goal, I hope, who is sitting in this room. So going old school on you guys, I am going to give you the basis for all of our teachings. Is the circle. Sorry, I'm the Indian that ruined the stereotype that all Indians are artists and we can draw. So that's supposed to be a circle. and our teachings are what's called the medicine wheel. Now, how many people in here studied Maslow? You guys must know about Maslow, right? So he's a great Western psychologist. He theorized that people seek for things in a sequence of orders, right? You have the biological and physiological needs. If you can meet these needs, right? You have to meet these needs of food and water, and just the basic needs. Once you meet those needs, you can move on to this next part where you'll find safety, order, protection, right? Safety, order, protection. And then once you meet those needs, you can move on to establishing meaningful relationships in life. Relationships in business, relationships in courting, all of these things. You could establish these relationships, and then once you establish some relationships, you can look towards accomplishments of your education, or whatever it is, your field of study, your choice of career, whatever it is. Look towards accomplishments. And then way at the top here, he has what's called self-actualization. Self-actualization. And so, according to Maslow's theory, then, where all indigenous thinkers and healers disagree with Maslow, is that he has this model upside down. And it makes perfect sense, because in this model of the world, how can I think about food and how can I think about God or self-actualization if I don't know where my next meal is coming from? Or if my country's at war, how can I think about God and self-actualizing? And that's where we all disagree with Maslow as indigenous people, because this model is backwards for us. In working with our Indian people, we have to take a look at what self-actualization is. We call it spirituality. Spirituality. And that's the basis for everything that we do. If we don't have a healthy sense of meaning and purpose in our lives, right? If we don't have a good connection with the power surrounding us and belonging in our community, a healthy outlook, all of these things, if we continually put the material world first, we're always going to be confused. If we start out from a basis of healthy meaning and sense of purpose in our lives, we can make it through anything. We'll have the strength, we'll have the fortitude, we'll be brave enough to make it through these things, because that's what belief and faith does for us. So working with our indigenous people, this is where you start. This is where to start with our indigenous people, is understanding that we are first spiritual beings. We're first spiritual beings. We have to learn to take care of that part and that aspect of our life. So in this model of the world, Maslow has a world of pursuit. It's in your constitution and everything, where it says you want to, in the pursuit of happiness. What does that actually mean? In the Indian world, it's the world of the unfolding. It's a world of trust, trusting the sacred to unfold as it's supposed to. When you trust the process to unfold as it's supposed to, it leads to acceptance. In the pursuit oftentimes it equals misery, because you get to that top of that mountain, you get all the success in the world, you have all the degrees in the world, and you get to that mountaintop and there's nothing there, because you still feel lonely, you still feel uneasy, you're not at peace. When we trust the sacred to unfold as it's supposed to, it leads to acceptance, which leads to peace inside of us. And so I was at one point in my career working with these Fortune 500 companies, and I was making $30,000 a day doing what I was doing. Get to that mountaintop and I don't have no family. I have no family. I could go anywhere I want to in the world. I could do whatever I want, but I was still lonely, you know. So everybody knows that happiness, the ultimate spiritual happiness, right, is contribution beyond oneself, right? Giving back. So I am very excited and challenged to be here today. Excited because I have a chance to give back. Challenged because I have to do a 32-hour training in 15 minutes. So I wanted to show you this to start off with, because that's the basis from which I approach everything from a spiritual standpoint. Because that's what's important to my people. That's what we are. We're spiritual beings. So I was in a training. Let me just tell you, I took a training, and it was on neuroscience, the way the brain functioned, how it functioned. I took a 2-day seminar. This was a $5,000 training. Took me 2 days to get through this $5,000 training. So what I'm going to try and do is sum up this $5,000 training for you guys in like 5 minutes here. So, you guys want this training? All right. This is what I learned, and I'm going to try and sum it up for you. The way the brain functions is, the brain was never meant to make you happy. The brain was meant to help you survive. So the brain is constantly judging. It's saying, yes, I like that experience. No, I don't like that experience. Yes, no, yes, no. And it's constantly telling you what you like and you don't like. And that's why, so your brain is like Velcro. And it's also like Teflon. The bad memories, they stick to you. The good memories, they'll bounce off of you. And so your brain is full of more bad memories than it is good, because your brain is trying to tell you this is what you need to hang on to in order to survive, because you didn't like that experience. And the brain hangs on to only useful information. So you can remember the first time you ever rode a bike, right? Can anybody remember that experience? How free you felt, how proud of yourself you were, and all these good feeling chemicals went off in your brain, this dopamine and these endorphins and everything. They went off in your brain and took a snapshot of that good time in your life. And your brain said, yes, I like this. I need to hang on to this experience. It's helpful to me. Well, science can also prove that the first time you ever did something is the only time them good feeling chemicals go off in your brain. When we do it the second time, whether it's drinking, whether it's injecting a needle in our arm, whether it's sex, whether it's jumping out of an airplane, whether it's, it's whatever experience you're trying to have, the only time the good feeling chemicals go off in your brain is the first time you did it. The second time, we call it chasing synthetic happiness. You're trying to recreate that experience again. And the science can prove it's not going to happen ever again. You're just trying to recreate it as something. So our old people, how I can mesh this with our old ways is, the old people say, you're going to discover some old new things, old new information. We've already had this information. So the only way to be chemically happy then is to challenge your brain, to experience something new all the time, to read a new book, to bring in new information, to see things, to hear things, to do things, to be things. And it's much like the teachings of our people. The old people used to tell us that you have to see something new every day. You have to be something new. You have to experience something new. You have to hear something new every day. Because the spirit, it responds to sound, movement, color, and silence. Everything that you heard up here, spoken word, you know, the colors within our art, you know, the people who are telling their stories. There's something inside our people that within ourselves, within the people and within you, all of you guys, the spirit remembers something so eternal. That's why it doesn't take $1 million grant. It doesn't take $1 million grant for us to bring somebody in a therapeutic setting or in a clinical setting to have that moment of peace. Because all I have to do is take them to a river or the woods or a stream and let them sit there. Sound, movement, color, and silence. I could sit with them in a clinical setting and I could sing them a song. Oh, hey, yo, yo, hey, yo, hi, hey, yo, hi, hey, yo, hi, hey, yo, hi. Sound, it brings people to a center. To a place in themselves where it's peace. Your eternal soul remembered something so sacred. Throughout my years of working with people from all over this country, I had the opportunity, the pleasure to work with literally thousands of people across the country in a clinical setting as well as a grassroots setting, in places like sweat lodges and ceremony. And you begin to see patterns form in people. You begin to see how we're all connected in some way. You know, we talked a lot about trauma. We talked about how that connects, how that trauma lives on within us, because essentially what we're trying to do is heal the trauma. We're trying to create wellness. But what is trauma then? You know, and probably 99.9% of the people sitting in this room have some form of trauma. I could take somebody with a 0 score on their ACEs and pull trauma out of them with 3 questions. And trauma, essentially what trauma is trauma is not what happened to you. It's what happens inside of you. And what happens inside of you is you learn that you cannot talk about things. So it creates a lot of shame inside of you. Shame seeks to isolate you from the hurt. So we lose connection as social beings who need to connect. We lose that connection. So essentially what we got to do to treat trauma is then to have healthy connections again. Healthy connections in community, relationships, the power surrounding us, family, healthy connections everywhere around us. Because if we lose the connection, you know, with that disconnect, shame seeks to tell us that we're unique in our experience and nobody will understand what I'm going through. But we're all healers. Just like Gracie was up here saying, we're all healers, because we take all of that shit that lives inside of us, all that garbage, And one day we're going to be able to go through that healing journey ourselves. One day we're going to be strong enough to talk about what's in here, and we're going to bring it up. We're going to bring it up and talk about it. And then somebody who's out there is going to experience healing from from our story. It's not just going to be our story. It's going to be the healing journey of myself, of who I am. So, lastly, I'm almost out of time, but I want to tell you a story. Unless you guys want me to get off the stage right now, I'll get off. But since I was a young man, ever since I was a young man, in my culture, you have a rite of passage that you have to go through. And this rite of passage is what we call a humbletia. And it's 4 days sitting up on a hill. No food, no water, no contact with anybody. It's just you and God. That's it. Just nobody else, nothing else. And so I turned 13 years old. My uncles came to my house at 6 o'clock in the morning, said, we need all of these items. We need everything that somebody, we need flags, we need ties, we need, tobacco, we need kidney. And I knew somebody was going to go up on the hill. And so they said, get it to us by noon. I said, okay. I went and gathered all of these things up for my uncles. And I brought it to the sweat lodge. And then I asked them, I said, who's going up on the hill? And they said, you are. You're 13 years old. This is your turn. It's your time. So for 4 days, I sat up on that hill all by myself. I didn't want to be up there. I fought, so hard to not be up there. And I ruined the experience for myself. Just totally being resentful that I had to sit up there. My birthday, it's my birthday. I want to go hang out with my friends. My friends are having fun. I'm sitting there thinking about everything my friends are doing, and I'm sitting up there ruining my entire experience. People talk about all these sacred experiences they got. Thunderclap and wolves talking to them, and bears coming and giving them powers, and I was like, man, I didn't experience any of that stuff up there. I was just angry, And so I felt like I was going to die. I was hungry. I was more thirsty than anything. 100-degree sun. I'm just out there by myself. And so the next year comes around. And I did not want to go up on the hill again. I didn't want to go up on the hill. And so I told my uncle, I said, is it okay if I just don't do this year? Because for the next 3 years, I'm going to have to go up on that hill again. I'm going to have to sit on that hill for 4 days all by myself again. And so I asked him, can I just not go up again this year? I think last year was such a trauma to me that I thought I was going to die. And, and he said, I said, I'm scared. And he said, Toshka, he said, nephew, he said, how do you conquer fear? And I said, I guess by being brave. And he said, no, he said, even brave people, they're scared. I said, well, how about courage, having courage? And he said, no, even courageous people, they're scared, they're afraid. And I said, well, how about being a warrior? No, even warriors are scared. I must have threw out everything, until I finally said, okay, how about being stupid then? How about being stupid? That's how you conquer fear. And he said, no. Every answer I gave, no. And then he said, get your stuff, get up on the hill. All right, so I go up on a hill. I'm sitting there, and I have this question to think about. How do I conquer fear? What is the answer to that? What is the answer? And so I could not think of an answer that satisfied me. Not one answer. And I get down from the hill, and I'm still thinking about this question. How do you conquer fear? Well, fast forward 3 years into the future, right? 3 years into the future, and I get done and I get off the hill again. My 4th time going up for 4 days, no food, no water, anything. I'm 17 years old. And then I go to my uncle's house, and he's sitting on his 3 Seasons porch with a cigar in his mouth, right? And you guys ever watch Kung Fu with like the grasshopper, you know, master type of thing, you know? So he's sitting there with a cigar in his mouth, and I said, Lakshi, uncle, I said, what? You asked me a long time ago, how do you conquer fear? And for the life of me, I just cannot come up with the answer that satisfies me. I cannot, you know. And he looks at me, you know, and he kind of has a smile. And, you know, and I'd love to tell you guys the rest, but I want to be respectful of your time. So I'll just, so thank you guys very much. Hope you